Okay, so now we're going to give, as we start to move through the next subject, we're going to start with an overview of marketing. And this is just a refresher or a primer, or in some cases a bit of an introduction about, well, what's marketing about? So in simple terms, the simple sentence is, find out what people want and give it to them. Okay, that's a very simplified way of saying that it's the process of identifying the needs and demands of our customers or clients, or whichever way you want to put it, in order to be able to provide them with their desired products or services. Okay, so what we're really trying to do is to find out who they are, what they want, and what's going to be the best method of getting that to those people to satisfy their needs. Okay, it's not actually just selling, which is what we often talk about when we talk about marketing. People think it's, it's an ad on TV, or it's selling to people. Okay, those things are really outcomes. They're just possible means of promotion, etc., and only actually part of the puzzle. What we're talking about is actually being customer focused from the beginning, and it requires us to organise this in a few different ways. So what we really want to be able to do is identify a few things. Okay, so the first thing I want to identify is, well, who's my potential customer? Okay, so who is it that might be needing something that I might be interested in providing? Okay, what is it that they need? Needs and wants. Okay, my daughter tells me she needs everything, but actually she just wants everything. Okay, so there's a huge difference between needs and wants, and we need to understand what that is as well. Need is something you actually require. Want is something that you would like. Okay, you don't need the latest iPhone, although we might certainly want it. Okay, so we might be then into the process of identifying the products and services that might suit that. So then, what is the product or service? Okay, and once we've identified the product or service, we can then talk about, well, how are we going to tell them about it? Okay, so I now know what they want. Well, how am I going to make sure that they understand that this is the product or service and this is what we're doing with it? We then want to start getting to a point of starting to persuade them that what we have is the solution. And once we go through persuade them, we want to, make sure they're satisfied. Because if we don't make sure they're satisfied and they're unsatisfied with the product or service, they're going to tell their friends and bad things are going to happen, okay? And we've sort of failed at what we've set out to do. So we're making sure that we've actually persuaded them, we've convinced them that's the way to go, we've then satisfied the needs, and then what we're really aiming to do here is to make a profit. Unless your intention is to make lots and lots of friends, okay, and not make a profit. But, we can make friends and make a profit at the same time. But ultimately, that's really what we're trying to do in the process of marketing, okay? So there's a few things there, and it's not just all about ads and funky stuff on TV. So in order to get really to the bottom of that, we need to start asking the obvious questions, and if you're a journalist or ever studied journalism, you'll have heard these before. And those questions are, who, what, where, when, why, and then the obvious last one, how. And the reason we're asking those questions is because we want to know, well, who? Who are our potential customers and who are our potential competitors? So who are we up against? When we're starting to talk about the what we're talking about there is, well, what is our product or service? Okay, so what is the product or service that we're putting together that meets their needs or that we can produce? Where starts to come down to, well, where is our premises? So where are we? Where are we going to be selling from? And also, where is the market? Okay, where are they located? Where can I find them? How am I making sure that I'm in the right place for the right people? We'll start talking about the when, and when we're talking about when, it's the right product at the right place at the right time. There's no point selling things at a time when the people aren't around or when it's not needed. Okay, we start to talk about why, and the why is, well, what are their customers' buying needs? So what are their motivations? Why are they looking to buy the product? What is it they're trying to do from it? Is it to get, self-esteem? Is it to quench a thirst? What are they doing there? And then how? How are we going to get this from us, produced, distributed out to the people we want to distribute to, and then how are we going to promote it? Okay, so what are the key things that we're going to look at there? All right, so they're really those big picture questions. So we've thought about what we're trying to achieve. We've started to think about the who, what, where, when, why, and how. And then we start thinking about, well, okay, what's our process of answering that? How do we answer that question? And that comes down to a simple case of we're going to gather information. So gather up what's going on. We're going to identify key issues. And once we've identified issues, we're going to develop a strategy. Okay, so we're going to develop a strategy and come up with a series of actions that are going to allow us to do so. Okay, so the first bit, when we're thinking about gathering information, we're looking at also selecting the product and services for which there's demand. Okay, we need to know, well, what are the products and services? Okay, we need to start to understand, well, what are the distribution of the sales outlets? So where or how we're going to, what's the best way to do that? We start thinking about, well, how we're going to sell the service, okay, how we're going to market it, and we start to think about how we're going to make sure the customers are actually satisfied with it. Okay, so we haven't just put something out, so how are we going to find that information? So we'll probably go through researching the market, so think about, well, what is the market for my product or services? How am I going to find out where it is and the key bits of information that I require? How am I going to work out what the market segment is, so the smaller slice of that? So what are the types of customers that exist within my market? Okay, if I'm selling, any product, a deodorant, okay, I'm selling deodorant, but what are the types of different segments that exist within the deodorant market? Do I need to make one for men, one for women? Can everyone just use the same one? Do I need to split it down any further? Okay, I need to think about the actions involved or the action marketing. So my product and services, think about how am I going to use the design, the packaging, all those sort of different elements to reinforce my particular message. And then I need to think about, well, how do we calculate a price? Okay, so what prices are they? What prices are people paying for it? Once again, if I'm going back to deodorant, how much does everyone expect to pay? If I come to market with a totally different price, people are either going to say it's too cheap and they won't trust it, or they'll say it's too expensive and they won't buy it. So my price point is actually very important, not just for where I sit with the competitors, but how I'm perceived. I need to think about the promotional strategy. So how am I going to promote? What business cards do I need to design? What advertising? Do I need tags? Do I need labels? Do I need wrapping, brands, logos, etc.? I need to start gathering up information and understanding how I'm going to distribute. So how will I get, once again, the products from me to someone else? What are the methods available to me? Okay, so if I'm an eBay seller, I'm obviously going to use the mail, but if I'm a shop, I might want to use a shop front. I also need to think about, well, how am I going to gather that feedback? If we've talked about feedback being important, how am I going to get it from the customer? Okay, so everyone talks about feedback. Oh, we'll gather feedback and that allows us to improve, but people need to think through a feedback strategy as well. And then I need to think about, well, how we're going to implement changes. Okay, so what's going to be our triggers to turn around and say, well, let's revise the product, refine the product, and make the product better. Okay, so there's quite a lot of thinking involved in that. All right, and that's really what's going to start to happen with us. From that, we've gathered up our information, we've thought about those things, we've identified any key issues while doing that, things that stand out to us as going to be problematic before we even begin, so we can develop ways to solve them, or we're looking a little bit ahead to work out, well, if this happens, what are we going to do about it? And then we start coming up with a set of strategies that we can then implement, or a set of strategies to deal with things as they become problems, and that gives us an overview of the initial thinking we need to undertake to move forward in marketing. So if we're doing those things, we know who, what, where, when, why, and how. We've understood that we need to gather the information, come up with the issues that could affect us now or in the future. We've got a series of strategies to answer all those elements. Then we should be good, and we should have a fairly good marketing plan starting to evolve. Good luck.